The night was electric, abounding with apprehension and excitement, as the army aggregated at the Tokyo Dome on October 14th, 1988. Michael Jackson, the King of Pop, was set to accomplish yet addition acclaimed show, but there was article about this night that acquainted different. For weeks, whispers had been circulating backstage amid his bandage associates and crew. Michael had been hinting at a abruptness, article special, article personal, that would change the atmosphere of the concert entirely, but no one knew what it was, and that abstruseness was abundant to accumulate anybody on edge. Michael Jackson, who had already become an all-around sensation, had a secret, a abstruse that had been active abysmal oral him for years. It wasn't aloof, a abruptness bedfellow, or a new agreeable performance. It was article that would affix his past, his present, and his actual soul. This night he was about to allotment that with the world. The Tokyo Dome was packed with over 50,000 admirers, bushing every inch of the stadium. They were accessible for the accepted absorbing comedy, the moonwalk, the high-energy performances, the aerial vocals that fabricated him a domiciliary name. But little did they know, they were about to attest a moment that would change the aisle of Michael Jackson's career, and perhaps alike their own compassionate of the man abaft the legend. As the concert went on, Michael performed his signature hits. Songs like Billie Jean, Bad and Smooth Criminal were met with oral cheers. His movements were as articulate as ever, his activity contagious. The army was in awe of the comedy advance, awe them, blind of the quiet affecting moment that was architecture backstage. Around the hour mark, Michael chock-full mid-performance. He was decrepit in sweat, his animation abundant from the acute dancing and singing. But instead of continuing, with addition hit, he signaled to his bandage to pause. The allowance fell silent, and for a moment the usually assured and animated Michael Jackson seemed to authority aback article deep, article personal. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael said, his articulation softer than usual, "tonight is activity. To be a little different, I accept addition actual appropriate with us actuality backstage. Addition who has shaped me into the man I am today. Addition who has been a guide, a teacher, and a friend." The admirers bashed with excitement, but there was an air of abashing too. Who could it be? Michael had performed with some of the better stars in the world, from Diana Ross to Paul McCartney, but this actuality was different. They weren't an adolescent artist or an adolescent performer. Michael's articulation trembled hardly as he batten again. "This person," Michael continued, "is added important to me than anyone in the music business, added important than all the producers, the managers, and alike the bodies who fabricated me famous. This actuality didn't aloof advise me how to sing or bawl. They accomplished me how to feel the music, how to affix with it, and how to allotment that affiliation with the world." There was an aggregate blow from the crowd. Who could possibly? Authority such a abode in Michael's heart, to be placed aloft the brand of Quincy Jones, his longtime producer, or the abounding allegorical performers he had formed with. The anxiety was overwhelming. Michael's eyes glistened as he spoke. "This actuality has never been on a date this big before, but they are the acumen I accept this allowance in the aboriginal place. They accomplished me that music is not aloof, addendum or rhythms. It's an accent of the heart. It's about honesty. It's about administration your body with the world." For a moment, Michael paused, the blackout in the amphitheater about deafening. "I've capital to do this for 20 years, he confessed, his articulation blubbery with emotion. "But I was scared, afraid that they wouldn't appetite to be in the spotlight, afraid that they wouldn't feel adequate with all the attention. But tonight they agreed. They agreed to appear out actuality and allotment article admirable with all of you." The apprehension had accomplished its peak. What was Michael about to reveal? The army was on the bend of their seats, their hearts racing. Michael took a abysmal breath, his affections accepting the best of him, as he assuredly said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I appetite you to accommodated addition who has shaped my activity added than anyone. Please welcome with all your adulation and respect, Mrs. Sarah Jackson." The admirers clapped, but Best was still borderline of who Mrs. Sarah Jackson was. The name wasn't one that would accelerate a beachcomber of acceptance through the crowd. But as she absolved out from the wings of the stage, the moment became clear. An aged woman, no taller than 5 feet, dressed artlessly in a bashful dress, appeared in advance of the world. She confused slowly, but with adroitness and dignity. There was article about the way she absolved that allowable attention alike. Afterwards, the charge for words. Michael, his duke extended, met her in the centermost of the stage. His face was abounding with pride, and his adulation for this woman was evident. "Sarah," Michael said, captivation her arm gently, "thank you for actuality tonight." The woman smiled, but there was a quiet, apprehensive address about her. "Thank you for accepting me, Michael," she said softly, her articulation decidedly strong, accustomed through the amphitheater, admitting the abridgment of a microphone. Michael's articulation trembled as he battened again. "When I was an adolescent boy, active in Gary, Indiana, I didn't apperceive abundant about music. My ancestors didn't accept much, but we had anniversary other. My mama, Catherine, would comedy actuality songs at home. But it was Sarah who showed me how to accept to music, how to feel it, not aloof apprehend it." He continued, "When I was 10, I got my Aboriginal guitar, but it was Sarah who accomplished me how to comedy it. It was Sarah who took the time to appearance me that music isn't about a dress. It's about the accuracy that you cascade into it. She would sit at the piano and sing hymns, and I would sit beside her. Acquirements not aloof the notes, but the activity abaft them. The army was bashful now, bent in the acquaintance of Michael's words. They knew they were witnessing article far added claimed than any of Michael's accepted performances. This was a man, the king of pop, absolute, a allotment of his affection that no one had any time apparent before. He continued, his articulation about aloft a whisper, "Everything you've any time heard me sing, every note, every accent, it started with her." "Sarah," Michael said, access to her, "would you sing article for all of us? Article that you accomplished." "Me all those years ago?" Sarah Jackson nodded. She had never performed in advance of an admirers this large, but she agreed. Michael stepped back and handed her a guitar. For a moment, aggregate went still. The arena, abounding with bags of people, seemed to authority its breath. Sarah's fingers agilely afflicted the strings, and as she played the aperture chords, of amazing grace, article bewitched happened. Her voice, admitting asperse by age, was abounding of power. Every agenda she sang was abounding with decades of experience, pain, joy, and faith. It was bright that this was the moment Michael had been cat and mouse for, to allotment the actual aspect of his body with the world. As Sarah sang, Michael stood by her side, adapted gently, acceptance her to booty the lead. For the aboriginal time in his career, Michael Jackson wasn't the brilliant of the show. He was the student, acquirements from the woman who had shaped him into the artisan he had become. Their choir attenuated calm perfectly, a chord that was both affecting and haunting. The army watched in awe, activity as admitting they were witnessing article that transcended bald performance. This wasn't aloof music, it was a moment of authentic connection. This was Michael Jackson, the king of pop, acknowledging his roots, his teacher, and the woman who had accustomed him the best important acquaint of all, about music, life, and soul. As the music of amazing adroitness abounding the Tokyo Dome, a faculty of acquaintance acclimatized over the all-inclusive crowd. The bags of bodies, who had appeared to see Michael Jackson's absurd appearance, now begin themselves allotment of article far deeper. the bright lights and the blatant apparel that about authentic his concerts had achromatic into the background. Instead, it was aloof the music, raw, pure, and abounding with the affectionate of effect that alone comes aback an artisan absolutely exposes their heart. For Michael, this was an acme of years of hidden affections and active gratitude. For so long, he had agitated the weight of his fame, his responsibilities, and his own centralized struggles. But here, in advance of bags of people, he was no best the untouchable king of pop. He was Michael, a boy who had been shaped by addition, who admired him unconditionally. He was vulnerable, and for the aboriginal time in a connected while, he acquainted free. As Sarah connected to play, Michael's apperception drifted aback to his adolescence in Gary, Indiana, he anticipation about the baby accommodation area he had lived with his family. Activity had been difficult back then. His father, Joe Jackson, was demanding consistently blame Michael and his brothers to assignment adamantine and become successful. His mother, Catherine, had consistently been the affecting courage of the family, adorning Michael's adulation for music. But in those aboriginal years, it was Sarah who had stepped in aback. The ancestors struggled. He remembered how, aback, his mother was ill and his ancestor was active with work. Sarah would appear by every day afterwards, her shift. She wasn't aloof, a housekeeper. She was an antecedent of amore and guidance. Michael could still bethink how she would sit him bottomward at their old beat piano, teaching him simple actuality songs. At the time, he hadn't absolutely accepted what she was doing. He aloof knew that aback she played. He acquainted article abysmal oral himself stir. It was like she was unlocking an aperture to a allotment of him that hadn't accepted it existed. As the song continued, Michael's anticipation about how Sarah had accomplished him not aloof, the abstruse ancillary of music, but how to feel it. You don't aloof sing the words, Michael, she would acquaint him. You sing the accuracy that's abaft them. Aback you sing, let your body speak, let it acquaint your story. Those acquaint had ashore with him, and they were what had fabricated his music affix with millions of bodies about the world. It wasn't aloof the music, though. Sarah had been an allegorical ablaze in his life. She had accomplished him that the aspect of altruism wasn't in acclaim or fortune, but in kindness, compassion, and service. As an adolescent boy, Michael had been captivated by the appetite to accomplish in the music industry. He capital to be famous, capital to be adored by fans, but Sarah had apparent him a altered path. She had accomplished him that the absolute accolade came not from the accolades or the trophies, but from affecting the lives of others, from application his aptitude to serve and uplift. As they sang calm that night, the admirers wasn't aloof witnessing a performance. They were witnessing a connected bandage amid two bodies who had spent decades abstraction anniversary other. It was bright that Michael had abstruse the best admired assignment of all, that abundant art, accurate greatness, comes from the heart. It comes from a abode of humility, of love, and of giving back. When the song assuredly ended, there was a connected moment of blackout in the stadium. Michael stood there, his duke comatose acclaim on Sarah's shoulder. He had consistently been accepted for his absorbing performances, his brand energy, and his adeptness to allure a crowd. But in this moment, he wasn't the entertainer. He was a man acutely confused by the woman who had accustomed him the foundation to become the artisan the apple knew. He took a abysmal breath, and aback he batten again. His articulation was blubbery with emotion. "I accept to acquaint you all something," he said, his articulation accustomed through the microphone. "Sarah has been a connected attendance in my life. For years she would appear to every appearance aback I performed in Memphis, but she never asked for anything. She would aloof sit in the audience, like any added fan, agilely watching. Never already did she ask to appear backstage. Never already did she ask for Annihilation Special. She aloof capital to see me perform, to see me sing the way she accomplished me too. The army was stunned. They had accepted Michael Jackson as the larger-than-life figure, the man who had afflicted the face of music, the one who had transcended chase and ability with his artistry. But this adumbration, that he had a teacher, a guide, a coach, who had been there for him all forth, humanized him in a way they had never apparent before. Sarah, auditioned Michael's words, smiled softly. She was humble, about shy, admitting the recognition. "Michael," she said, speaking into the microphone with a amore that abounding the arena, "I never bear annihilation from you, child. I aloof capital to accomplish abiding you were singing from your heart, that you were still the aforementioned boy I accomplished how to feel the music all those years ago. You don't charge to acknowledge me, you've done added than abundant, by aloof actuality who you are." The army erupted into acclaim already again, but this time it was different. This was a continuing acclaim, not aloof for the king of pop, but for the woman who had shaped him. They were acknowledging the affection abaft the music, the body that had fabricated it all possible. But Michael wasn't done. There was one added affair he bare to allotment with the world. "Sarah," he said, his articulation about a lofter whisper, "there's article abroad I charge to acquaint anybody here." He took her abysmal breath. "For years I've been adored with so abundant fame, fortune, and adulation from all of you. But what you don't apperceive is that I've additionally been adored with article added valuable, the affection of bodies like Sarah, who accept accomplished me, that the accurate adeptness of music is not in the applause, but in the affiliation it creates. The accurate adeptness of music is in administration, a allotment of your body with others, and that's what she accomplished me." The army stood in reverence, compassionate that they were not aloof witnessing a moment of music history, but a acutely animal experience. This wasn't aloof about Michael Jackson. This was about every artisan who had any time been shaped by the easily of addition who believed in them, addition who accomplished their aptitude and showed them the way. "Sarah, I've never told anyone this before," Michael continued, his articulation abiding but abounding with emotion. "You've never asked for anything, but I appetite to accord you article tonight. I appetite you to apperceive that aggregate. I've any time achieved, every agenda I've sung, every ball move I've fabricated. It's all because of you. I owe you everything." The admirers was in tears. It wasn't aloof the admirers who were moved. Alike the musicians on date were visibly afflicted by the bite of the moment. There was article so authentic and admirable about the way Michael was anniversary, the woman who had shaped him into the actuality he had become. "Sarah, would you sing with me one added time?" Michael asked, his articulation abounding with reverence. "I anticipate there's one added song that you and I can allotment together." The admirers waited in suspense, and Sarah, with an affable nod, agreed. Michael stepped to the side, giving her the spotlight. And as she began to comedy "He's Got the Whole Apple in His" easily on the piano, Michael abutting her already again, singing in harmony. This time, however, it wasn't aloof about the song. It was about aggregate that had led to this moment. It was about gratitude, love, and the adamantine bandage amid a coach and her pupil. As they sang, the absolute amphitheatre abutting in, fans, celebrities, bandage members, alike the agents. Anybody was affiliated in that moment. What had started as a quiet, affectionate moment amid two bodies had adapted into an aggregate anniversary of life, music, and animal connection. When the song ended, there was the abrupt blackout before the army erupted into an overwhelming, abiding applause. Michael stood with his arm about Sarah, both of them afflicted by the access of adulation from the audience. As the acclaim boring died down, Michael battened one final time. "I appetite you all to accept something," he said, his articulation abiding but abounding with abysmal emotion. Music isn't aloof about fame. It's about the bodies who advise appearance us, the bodies who advise us how to live, how to love, and how to affix with anniversary other. Sarah accomplished me that, and I will never balloon it. The moment apparent, the alpha of a new affiliate in Michael Jackson's life. From that night forward, he above board accustomed the African-American influences that had shaped his music. He no best feared administration, the accuracy of area his appearance had appear from. He knew that accomplishing so would account the bodies who had accustomed him everything. And for Sarah Jackson, the quiet, apprehensive woman who had been so affecting in his life, that night was her moment of recognition. She never approved fame, but in the best abstruse way possible, she had accustomed the accomplished account Michael could give. As the acclaim began to settle, Michael took a long, abysmal breath. The allowance was abounding with an activity so able that it seemed to beating through every bend of the Tokyo Dome. The audience, accepting aloof, witnessed a moment of raw affect and abysmal connection, was still in awe, some wiping abroad tears, others aloof sitting silently, processing what they had aloof witnessed. Michael's step advanced already again, his articulation abashed slightly, but abiding with a faculty of finality. Tonight was never about me. It was never about the glitter, the fame, or the applause. It was about love. It was about gratitude. It was about canonizing the bodies who fabricated me who I am. He looked at Sarah, his teacher, his guide, the woman who had shaped him in means words couldn't alike describe. Sarah, I achievement you apperceive that tonight. The apple sees. They see the affection and body abaft every song I've any time sung. You fabricated me added than aloofer performer. You fabricated me a bigger person. Sarah smiled gently, her eyes moist but abounding of love. She took Michael's hand, giving it a blaze squeeze, her face a account of pride and warmth. Michael angry to face the audience, his articulation abiding now, abounding with gratitude. This woman, my teacher, my friend, and my coach, she's the acumen I'm able to allotment my allowance with all of you tonight. Aggregate that I've done in my activity, the music, the performances, the affiliation, it started with her. There was a bendable babble of acceptance from the crowd, as if they accepted the weight of the moment. They had witnessed article profound, article far added elusive than aloof a performance. They had apparent a fable allotment of his soul, and in accomplishing so, account the bodies who had fabricated his adventure possible. With a final bow to Sarah, Michael smiled through his tears and battened one aftermost time. Thank you, Tokyo. Acknowledge you for administration this moment with me, and acknowledge you, Sarah. You've accustomed me everything. I'll absorb. The blow of my activity authoritative abiding, you never feel forgotten. The admirers stood up, clapping, some chanting, Michael, Michael, as if aggravating to back their own acceptance for the allowance of the night. But it wasn't aloof the king of pop they were applauding anymore. They were applauding a teacher, a mentor, a woman who had agilely shaped the isle of one of the greatest artists the Apple had any time known. As the lights dimmed, Michael and Sarah stood together, duke in hand, basking in the amore of the adulation and account that abounding the arena. For Michael, it was the acme of acclaimed adventure, one that had amorphous in a baby accommodation. In Memphis, with an old piano, and a woman who believed in him back no one abroad did. And for Sarah it was a quiet, admirable acceptance, not aloof of her access on Michael, but of her legacy. She had shaped an artist, but added importantly, she had shaped an animal actuality who would go on to change the Apple with his music. As they absolved off the stage, arm in arm, Michael looked at Sarah one aftermost time and whispered, "Thank you for teaching me to sing from my heart." Sarah smiled, her articulation bendable but abounding with conviction. "I didn't advise. You to sing, Michael. I aloof showed you how to listen. And with that the night came to a butting, not with the barrage of applause, but with the quiet ability that sometimes the best elusive moments aren't the ones we plan, but the ones we alive with love, humility, and gratitude.